Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
We on WCPT have been talking about a production that is going on right now at Northlight Theatre. It's at the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts in Skokie, which is that venue that's kind of across the street from Old Orchard, easy to get to from the city, easy to get to from the suburbs. I have been over there a couple of times in connection with their newest production, The First Lady of Television. When I first heard about this show, I was really looking forward to it because it tells the story of Gertrude Berg, who I'd never heard of before, who predated even the likes of Lucille Ball when it comes to having your own show. Some people say she sort of created the sitcom on television. And I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to learn something about a woman who was, a real leader in the industry. And that's what I was thinking. And there is certainly that in the play, but there is so much more. It is so timely. I know it's about a woman who made her name in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, but it is I hate to use this phrase. It is such a cliche, ripped from the headlines. But man, oh man, there is a lot going on at Northlight Theatre that has direct connections to what is going on in our world right here, right now. As soon as I saw it, I reached out to Kathy Taylor and I said, I want to talk to B.J. Jones on the radio. B.J. Jones is the artistic director of Northlight Theatre and the man who decided that Gertrude Berg's story would make a damn fine play. And he was right, and he joins us now to talk about it. Thank you so much for being here, BJ.
Oh, Joan, thank you. Boy, you did a fantastic job. Thank you for your enthusiasm and for coming out to Northlight as often as you have.
Yeah, it's I really like. I will still try to get to Northlight Theatre when you move to Evanston, but it's going to be hard for me. I get used to doing things a certain way, and but I will with this fall when you open up your new facility. I promise I'll be there. But right now, you are really the driving force behind this play, this production. Talk to me about how this originated.
Well, in 2009, believe it or not, it was that long ago. In 2009, I saw a documentary called Yoo-Hoo, Mrs. Goldberg, which is the sort of clarion cry that she used to open up her radio and then TV show with. And I went to see it in New York with my wife, and on a rainy day in New York, because you can't shop in the rain. So we ended up going to see it. The theater was packed, and it was a critic's pick in the New York Times, and I was absolutely fascinated because I hesitate to say it. I had seen the television show or kinescopes of the television show when I was a young kid on our 12-inch black and white Admiral TV, and so I thought, gee, this would make a great play. And in having a conversation with James Sherman, the playwright, whose play Chagall in School, which I admired, I told him about her and the story. He was fascinated. He saw the documentary, and we collaborated. He wrote the play, did a wonderful job. You've seen it. You know how it works, and I also immediately thought of a dear friend, Cindy Gold, who is an actress and a former professor at Northwestern University, who is a dead ringer for the real Gertrude Berg. So I had the cast, I had the playwright, and we moved ahead. Now, the interesting thing, Joan, is that we wrote this in 2018 when Biden was president, and we had lived through the first Trump tenure, and I just thought, there's some spooky things happening, and so I commissioned it while Biden was president, and now with every performance, it seems more and more resonant about what's happening in our world.
And I don't want to give people the wrong idea, because it's a delightful, fast-paced 75 minutes. There's a lot of laughs, but you deal with a lot of real serious subjects. Talk a little bit about that, BJ.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because it is not unleavened bread. It is it is very funny, because it's wrapped. The playwright Jim Sherman's conceit is that there is this drama happening during the rehearsal of their television show, which would be broadcast later on that evening. And as a result, you see the rehearsal of this TV show, which is, of a different time, and a kind of mild humor that, and what develops is we get to know these, not just the characters in the television show, but we also get to know the characters of the actual actors who performed in the Goldbergs. Everything in the play is true. Everything that happens is absolutely accurate, but Jim has put his own particular spin on things. Jim, is a very successful playwright. He was, back in the day when he and George Wendt were all on stage together at Second City. So he's a very accomplished comedic writer, but he also knows how to write drama. And I think that's the sort of interwoven comic drama that happens in this play is a great example of his artistry.
And it takes place in the 1950s. That's where
Yes.
That's when the play is set. When we were, in another dark time in our country, we had McCarthyism, we had the fear of communism, we had government overreach. Oh my gosh. We could never have that now, BJ. I don't know why. I thought this was timely.
Yeah. There's also a discussion of anti-Semitism. And, we're experiencing that now. There's a great division in the world's perception of Judaism. There's Israel is... There's a lot of controversy over Israel, and of course, we're very concerned about Palestine and the people in Gaza. But there's a tendency to conflate those ideas, and that I think is also implied in this play, because Gertrude Berg herself was Jewish, and the family. What she says in the play is, I talked Mr. Paley into doing this by telling him it was really about an average family in order to get him to do a radio and television show about a Jewish family. Which implies a certain anti-Semitism. She had to coerce him into it. So there's so much going on in the play, and it's really only 75 minutes, but it's so compact, and the ideas are complex and moving, and as you say, funny. Because the characters, that's the thing that's so great about Jim's writing. Jim knows how to develop character that we become enamored of, and then we are amused by their foibles rather than just tell jokes. You know what I mean? You've seen it. You understand how it arises from the action. It isn't forced on the action by just joke telling.
Did you have to work with the estate of Gertrude Berg to do this? I mean, I know most times when you're writing about something that really happened, you kind of have to get whoever is in charge of the estate to sign off on it. Or maybe this is, wait, oh my God, this is like 75 years ago. Oh my God, BJ, I'm perhaps there's no more, I think that intellectual property stuff runs out. It feels so today. I have to keep reminding myself that this takes place in the 50s because it felt so today when I saw it.
Yeah, I know. It's true. That, by the way, I think that's a shrewd question you've asked about. If everything in the play is evidenced in the public domain, so we didn't have to get anybody's permission because it's all resourced in books and in film, and so everything is sort of it's public domain. So we didn't really have to reach out to the estate. What we did do is reach out to the woman who made the documentary and tell her that she was a primary source. And she was glad because it gets people an opportunity to go back and look at her documentary again. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly why she made this documentary. Also, the whole notion of a woman in that time frame, putting cracks in the glass ceiling, a woman became the second most popular woman in America behind Eleanor Roosevelt. And at that time, for a period, she was the wealthiest woman in America. Her husband was a chemist, and he was involved in developing instant coffee.
Ah.
And so ergo Sanka as a sponsor. So, she really was a pioneer. And just recently, 2 months ago, New Yorker Magazine did an article entitled The Woman Who Invented the Sitcom. And it's all about Gertrude Berg. Subsequently, after she left CBS, Lucille Ball took over her time slot on Sunday nights, which is very interesting. And Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, you may remember, he sort of developed the 3-camera shoots, and they had a live audience. Gertrude Berg did not have a live audience. And also, Lucy and Desi figured out that they needed to own their own. They had their own studio, Desi Lou, and they figured out they needed to own their own product, which is why it was always in reruns. And Gertrude Berg wrote something like, I may get the number wrong, I'm sorry, but she wrote, produced, directed, and starred in some 12,000 scripts, starting in 1929 when it was a 15-minute radio program. Then it went to a half hour, and then it transitioned from radio over to television.
Wow. Did she own the show? Gertrude Berg?
I think so. She also, she won an Emmy, and she also won a Tony. She was on Broadway in a play called Majority of One, which was subsequently made into a movie, but she didn't get to play the role, as is so often with film. People get replaced who pioneer the role on Broadway, but then some movie star takes over. And in this case, in The Majority of One, it was taken over by Rosalind Russell.
Ah, yeah, they want that bankable name. And I do remember, yes. I remember reading a lot about Desi Lou Studios because they were the studio behind Star Trek.
Yes.
Many of us owe a deep debt of gratitude to Desi Lou for that. BJ, I want to ask you kind of a technical question. I don't see as much theater, I'm sure, as you see, but I see a decent amount. And it seems to me that a lot of newer playwrights, like playwrights who are writing new works right now, that there's more of a tendency to go with the just one elongated act rather than the 2 acts or even in some cases 3 acts of some of the older plays from decades ago. Am I just imagining that, or is that a trend?
I do think it's a trend. I think 90-minute plays, especially since the pandemic, people got used to sitting at home and watching Netflix and seeing a 90-minute film. Of course, they could put it on hold and go out and get a cup of coffee or something and come back and take it off pause. But I do think the 90-minute format, sort of influenced by television and film, is growing. Now I say that to you, and last year we did a play called Prayer for the French Republic, speaking about something that was incredibly timely, and that was about anti-Semitism in France. And that was before October 7th occurred. And it was about a family that whose son is attacked on the street by some thugs because he was wearing a yarmulke, and they debate the nature of the play as they debate for 3 acts, 3 hours,
wow.
Whether or not they're going to move to Israel. And there's a lot of very contemporary conversation around the nature of Zionism and anti-Semitism. So that actually is a very recent play. It was done on Broadway 2 years ago and directed by Chicago's own David Cromer. So there are plays that continue to be 2 or even 3 acts. Mm-hmm. But you're not wrong about that, Joan. There is a tendency to do it in 90 minutes. I think audiences, I hear it all the time because, I roam around the lobby talking to our subscribers. We're very fortunate at Northlight. We have about 3,200 subscribers, and they're very vocal. They're very loyal. We retain them year after year, and when we move to Evanston, I'm sure we'll have them come with us. We're moving in the fall of 2026 to our new home. It's being built right now on Church Street in Evanston, right next to right across from the movie theaters and right next to the Al and the Metro. So it's going to be very convenient for folks.
I was grilling the Northlight members on Saturday before we did our little meet and greet. I was grilling them about where I'm going to be parking when I come to Evanston after you move there. And I was assured, if you're on the same or across the street from the movie theater, that you're just down the block from that monstrous parking garage. So that was my only fear. Evanston is a great town, but parking can really suck. And I do want to tell you before we wrap up, I think I had tickets to French Republic, but I think I was sick that night. But Jill Wine-Banks, the former Watergate prosecutor, was there, and she and I have been talking about theater on our text chat. And she said, "Prayer for the French Republic moved me to tears, and I recommended it to everyone." So another great review.
I'm a big fan of hers, and my wife watches her every time she comes on. But it's nominated for several Jeff Awards. We had 8 Jeff nominations last year, and First Lady is recommended got a Jeff recommendation as well. So,
and in the Chicago Tribune, Chris Jones wants you and Mr. Sherman to continue this collaboration. He wants more. He thinks you guys work well together.
Well, God bless him for saying that. We had a very strong collaboration. I think this was really fertile ground to talk about what's happening now through the lens of then. And it's very moving, and as you point out, there's a generous dose of humor to grease the wheels. But listen, I'm really grateful that you came. You're a terrific advocate for the arts, Joan. This is an important time because the arts, as you know, are being threatened and by the current administration. So your help is profound.
Well, this is definitely a play that I am 100% all in on promoting. And if you can get to Northlight Theatre in Skokie, this is one you will really enjoy. And B.J. Jones, Artistic Director of Northlight, thank you so much for joining me to help spread the word and talk about it.
Thank you, Joan.